coming from an undisclosed place, LUOCHA seems to have gotten a lot of players' attention for the resemblance and attitude he has, relating and almost resembling a certain someone from the Honkai Impact 3rd series. As a fair warning for all players who are watching this video, please be aware that there will be light spoilers for the Shincho Lafu storyline as of version 1.0, as well as some slight spoilers of his skills and Lycone that could be changed later on in the future as of the closed betas of 2 and 3 versions. Please be aware when watching this video, as anything could be changed or even spoilers will be put upon here. Thank you so much for understanding, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this video. Today's discussion will be about our mysterious foreign trader LUOCHA, and to discuss who he could possibly be, along with his movesets and all the little references that are within his character and his character kit. Who is LUOCHA? LUOCHA is a foreign trader and merchant, carried around a coffin with him due to a request and a situation he happened to stumble upon with. LUOCHA has very interesting views on eons, life, death, and what everything holds meaning to. Having the ability to heal, he doesn't seem as weak as he looks, even having a lot of characters turn head as they question his abilities. As of version 1.0, certain characters even have some lines towards him. One of the characters being Su Sheng, who says,
"That outsider looks weak, but is pretty brave. If he weren't on the Xianzhou and hadn't met me, he'd totally get robbed just for lugging such a huge case around."
Another character who has voice lines for him is Xingchui, who has to say this.
Who? That sounds like an outsider. We've got a lot of outsiders. You'll come across them a lot in the Looking Bronze. He's probably here to seek success and seeking immortality for himself. Yes, I did say seek twice.
It has a lot of implications and meanings to what he's doing, which has a lot of people turning heads to him. A character who has a line that will later come up again is Ding Yuan, who says,
"A businessman from beyond the sky, and he's not on the Whistling Flames' records. Weird. Why can't I remember him?"
The reason why this line's important is actually we find out while doing this quest is that LUOCHA actually had plans to meet with her, leading to a lot of players to be confused and also worried if one of the two are lying. And finally, a character who has something to say about LUOCHA in the data bank is Jin Yuan, who actually says this.
"I have seen many merchants in my life. But don't you think there aren't many like him, who are in no hurry to do business?"
Little fun fact about here, in a Japanese popular women's magazine, they actually had a Q&A for some of these characters. When asked about Junyuin from LUOCHA's side, he just says, "It's a secret," having a lot of players be very confused and also excited to know what their relation and bond is between this one interaction from a Japanese woman magazine. Storyline, we actually get to play a little bit as Don Hong, where we actually get to go ahead and learn about LUOCHA from this situation. When going ahead and playing as Don Hong, at certain parts of the game where we are walking around, we actually can ask LUOCHA a bunch of little questions here and there just to get a little bit of a peek of his character. When playing and asking LUOCHA to talk a little bit about himself, he goes ahead and mentions,
Merchants don't belong anywhere. We wander and make the stars our home. But if you're curious, within the Alliance, I'm registered at the Xianzhou Utrecht. Within the IPC, I'm registered at the Star Unity Mall branch at the North Valley Star. Therefore, LUOCHA is just the name I use within the Xianzhou. Outside of the Xianzhou, I use something more difficult to pronounce. I'm guessing you want to know that name too?
This is such a small little comment that drove so many people up with raising red flags and questioning who exactly LUOCHA is. From simply stating that his name is not even LUOCHA, and he says different names belong in different places, and he doesn't actually give us an exact place of where he is from. during this quest as well, later on in the game, you can actually talk with an LUOCHA as Donghong, and you actually get to learn a little bit about these two characters. In particular, when Sushong keeps asking him more about abundance and such, LUOCHA kind of makes a comment saying that it's kind of weird how she doesn't know about this information, which Sushong goes ahead and pronounces here that she didn't have much time to learn to read, as her mom made her learn more about fighting with a sword. There's actually these types of comments here in this entire dialogue situation where you actually get to learn a little bit more about the coffin. Here, Sushong asks if that's a friend in the coffin, to which he replies with no. Then asked if that's a lover, he laughs it off saying, "No miss, why would it be such a thing?" This actually got a lot of players confused here, especially those Honkai Impact 3 players, as he goes ahead and laughs it off in a way where he says no, but it leads it to be a possible situation. Of course, we don't really know what's inside the coffin, but if you're a Honkai Impact 3 player, there's been a whole theory around that who's inside that coffin might be someone like Kalinka from Honkai Impact 3, as Kalinka was one of his dearest friends of Auto-Apocalypse. This leads to a lot of theories and situations that we could get a Kalinka character in this game, as we have an Auto-like Apocalypse character here. Another part when doing this quest with Donghong, you can actually ask LUOCHA a little bit more questions, but in particular, you can ask him about the coffin.
Oh, miss, whatever gave you that impression? The individual in the coffin is neither friend nor relative. We met only once. By chance, I made someone a promise, and so I have to run this errand. Let's leave it at that, shall we? I think we've all had enough rest.
LUOCHA simply states that the coffin is a small favor he owes, as he found himself in a little conflicted situation, and he now owes this favor of delivering the remains back to the Shunj, letting out a small little comment that he has a very bad habit of being a magnet of misfortune since being dragged to the LeFou, and now he can't seem to get himself out of these. Moving on from the small little tidbits of what we get in-game about him with the story and quest, we can actually learn a little bit about him just from his light cone as well as his splash art. Looking at LUOCHA in his light cone, there's actually a little small text that we can read from the second beta, which states in his light cone, Thorns, "Under the watch of the white irises, he bashed the coffin with his hands. Sometimes I feel I underestimated you by proposing this deal." This leads to a lot of players to actually be confused at what exactly this meant. At the time, we didn't really know much about the coffin, but now we understand that the deal was taking in the coffin and have it be delivered. Looking back at LUOCHA's light cone, we actually get to see some very particular things in this light cone that shows a lot of meaning and influence to who he possibly could be as a character. In this light cone, we can actually see a certain type of white flower, which seems to be the white irises as mentioned in the description. Normally, these flowers have connections with fate, compassion, change, and depending where in the world, it can be used for different meanings. Sometimes they mean fertility and change, while in some places they're actually seen as sympathy flowers, and even in other places seen as the protection of the heart flowers. As we can see, there's thorns pointing at his heart, which shows this meaning as well. And if we even want to go ahead and pull a bigger thing of the can of worms, if we actually look at his light cone in the very back, we can see a statue. The statue might be a bit of a stretch, but it closely resembles a statue we actually get to see in Honkai Impact 3 during the Death Spoke Apocalypse open world map, aka Goldstan, which actually is supposed to be a statue of Kalinka, which is a very interesting little tidbit thrown by Hoyoverse as a way to go ahead and connect these games besides just using Wei Yang and a bunch of the characters that look similar to each other. This might be a little bit of a stretch, but it is a little piece of information that's kind of interesting and kind of important to point out. Moving on from his light code, we can actually learn a little bit more about LUOCHA looking at his skills. However, disappointingly to us, we actually don't get to see his skills or the names of these skills. This is a joke. Yes, we can. Plus Beta, Part 2 and Part 3 luckily had us in this favor because, oh my goodness, if Hoyoverse did not have it, I think I would have officially lost my marbles. But moving on to that topic, we can actually look at his skills in the closed beta of version 3. His basic attack being called Thorns of Abyss, his skill being called Prayer of Abyss Flower, which if you play Honkai Impact 3rd, you actually know about the Divine Key, Abyss Flower. We can look at his ultimate, which is actually called Death Wish, his talent is called Circle of Life, and his technique is called Mercy of a Fool, which, in case you were curious, Mercy of the Fool is often something related to a certain someone from Honkai Impact 3rd, but that will be for a little bit later. Thanks to version 2 of the beta, we can actually look at LUOCHA's Eidolons. His Eidolons have very interesting names as they actually have a lot of connections and also just a little bit of information about him, which we will be discussing right afterwards of who he can possibly be because of these Eidolons. The names for these Eidolons are Pure Bestol, Baptism of the Living, The Fool's Attempt, Judgment from Crown of Thorns, Mark of Sacrifice, and also Dust to Dust. A lot of these names have different meanings and different implications of who he could be and exactly what he could be. These are very important to his character, and with the story goes on, we can actually be able to learn a little bit more about him, but these actually help a very popular theory within the Honkai Impact 3rd series of fans. Now, do you recall why we were looking at all the Eidolons and skill names and such? Well, I know exactly why some people have clicked on this video, as well this is the video topic and also what was the title of this video. Who exactly is LUOCHA? And what exactly is he planning? In case you don't notice, a lot of people have speculations of who LUOCHA could be. A major one being that he could be Auto Apocalypse, our main antagonist? Anti-hero? Really depends on who you are of the Honkai Impact 3rd series. Besides looking very familiar, sharing the same voice actors for JP and CN, LUOCHA has a lot of similarities to Auto Apocalypse in appearance as well as his attitude, along with the fact that LUOCHA has a lot of skill names rowing Abyss Flower, a weapon that Auto Apocalypse himself actually talks about a lot and has even been seen used, such as Oath of Judith. He actually has a lot of similarities with being referred to as a fool and clown aesthetics and such due to the fact of Auto Apocalypse having a major thing around it. But I am actually going to throw something more intense into the table, which being the language of flowers. When it comes to Auto Apocalypse, he actually has a lot of deep connection with flowers, in particular those in the color of white. We can actually look at Sushong's M-Stig from Honkai Impact 3rd, and in the side of Auto, we actually get to see these flowers once again appear. These flowers seem to as well be the white iris or even white lilies. They have more resemblance of the white lilies, and white lilies are often seen as flowers to give to someone who is grieving or just recently had a death. Seeing at the outfit that Auto Apocalypse has at this stage, this actually makes a lot of sense as this is the outfit he wore for Dustsmoke Apocalypse, which, spoiler alerts in case needed for Honkai Impact 3rd, actually has his chapter where he dies. This has a lot of implications of who exactly he is and who he could be, and it's kind of ironic seeing at the fact that Auto Apocalypse has a lot of resemblance to these flowers and connections to it. While for majority of the world, white doesn't mean really anything bad, meaning just purity, for a lot of other places and countries and religions, white does have the resemblance of death, often being something that people wear when mourning or giving flowers of. This is a very important piece of information as we can look at LUOCHA's outfit and see the white in it, as well as Auto Apocalypse who wears white during his final chapters. Another piece of information that's very important about Auto Apocalypse, not just from this very small coincidence of what they wear and the flowers resembling in both the manga as well as stigmata art as well as in the chapters, but we can actually see this with a visual novel. One of the key visual novels that actually shows LUOCHA looking a little bit more like Auto Apocalypse is the Seven Swords visual novel or the Shadow Swords visual novel, whichever you refer to as where he takes the name here Raksha, which is very important to realize as even in the JP version of Star Rails, LUOCHA goes by this name, which has a lot of players scratching their heads going, isn't that kind of funny? They share the same name, their outfits kind of similar, both are carrying around coffins. It's a little funny detail to recognize here, and I can't just simply ignore it even if I wanted to go ahead and do so. Actually, in this visual novel, we actually get to see Auto Apocalypse hold the Abyss Flower, and he has a lot of ties and talks to Shang. Actually, what's really important here is that, thanks to one of my viewers mentioning this, one of the scenes from this visual novel, as well as the scene from the in-game cutscene, we actually get to see they look pretty similar as well in this certain position. It's a little bit of a stretch, it's a little bit of a nod, and it's kind of important for me to go ahead and bring up here, as if I don't, it would be seen that I'm being kind of biased trying to prove that LUOCHA could possibly not be Auto-Apocalypse, but it's a very high theory from their personalities, the way they act, as well as from connections they have from flowers to the language of flowers they use, as well as from implications of their names and such. A very key thing to remember here is that Auto-Apocalypse and Wolfgang are not friends. We have seen this time and time and time again in Honkai Impact 3rd, but I feel like this is a very key important thing to remember, as if LUOCHA turns out to be in Auto-Apocalypse, not the Auto-Apocalypse, in Auto-Apocalypse, aka he has the thing known as Autocore, as my chat likes to call it. Because of the imaginary tree, it is important to remember that there could be conflict between these two, or this might just be a universe where an Auto-Apocalypse character is actually somewhat in good terms with, well, Yang would be a miracle beyond all belief. This is important to go ahead and bring up and mention, as if it turns out he is in Auto-Apocalypse, we could have some conflict, but if he is in Auto-Apocalypse, we could have some good dialogue discussion here of what could have not been possible in Honkai Impact 3rd. Now, a very second popular theory within who LUOCHA could possibly be is he is the Void Archives. I'm going to be throwing my personal opinion using Void Archives character in HPHO 1 and 2, as well as Alien Space, as well as what we learn about Void Archives from the mangas and also the Spoke Apocalypse arc. And I'm going to say this here with my entire chest, and this is going to probably cause a lot of debate. In my personal opinion, I do not see how LUOCHA could be the Void Archives. I'm going to explain why in very small details. Void Archives is seen as, yes, a version of Auto, but he's not Auto-Apocalypse. As we see in Alien Space, he doesn't really act like him. And HO1, when he's talking with Yang, he openly talks about how much he dislikes Auto-Apocalypse and how much he actually hates him for infiltrating his mind and heavily influencing him. I feel like this is a small little detail that a lot of players do not know about as well, because Void Archives is a part of HPHO, and a lot of players haven't had the opportunity to play this character mode yet. I say character mode, I mean open world mode. But another piece of information to remember is that the Void Archives was heavily influenced by Auto-Apocalypse because they were stuck together for over 500 years. While Void Archives might be an AI who was created 50,000 years ago, it is important to remember that Void Archives was isolated and often feared by the previous era because of the fact that he was made as an AI and basically sentient in this way, as he has the ability to learn and grow from this information. Vilvi even mentions that he was the hardest to be made because of this fact, and it made him very much isolated in this case. Even if we don't like to admit it, having this opportunity here, when he had the chance to go ahead and meet Auto-Apocalypse when he was younger, of course he would take the chance to go ahead and make a deal with him to try to get his body, of course not really realizing that this would lead to a lot more situations later on the line where he was stuck with him for 500 years. So Void Archives really doesn't resemble a lot of Auto, which LUOCHA tends to resemble more of Auto-Apocalypse personality-wise and action-wise. But of course I can see where people come with this theory, as Void Archives is heavily hinted to be the travel buddy of Yang, who is not right now in the Astral Express that we actually get to read about early on in game. Another piece of information to remember in this situation is the fact that Void Archives basically tries to roleplay Auto-Apocalypse at HPHO 1 and 2, and Yang, when first meeting Void Archives in the train, tries to roleplay as Joyce. Both of them are trying to roleplay as a person they're modeling themselves after, but both failing miserably and calling each other out. Of course, with all the information we have gathered and such, a very big possible theory, and a theory that I myself kind of don't want to admit, but I must admit, because the imaginary tree works in very funny ways, is the fact that LUOCHA could be a version of Auto thanks to the imaginary tree of what happened at the end of chapter 28 of Honkai Impact 3rd. Now, does this mean LUOCHA is our Auto from Honkai Impact 3rd? No, but he could be in auto, as a lot of players also like to point out at Ayato Kamisato from Genshin Impact, who people would dub as in auto. LUOCHA could be in auto in this situation. So if you would like to go ahead and think about it, LUOCHA is just following the quote-unquote auto-core, as my chat likes to point out. That seems to be a heavy running theme with Hoyoverse giving certain characters the auto-core experience. Of course, anything can change. I'm recording this before the 1.1 stream of Honkai Star Rails, and of course before the chapter B comes out. I am just gathering information from what we got in-game, as well as what we have from Honkai Impact 3rd, what the Honkai community has to say about this, and a lot of theories and speculations that players have put out there. I am just trying my best to answer this question as much as I can with the information that has been given to us, which is very limited. But of course, if you have any other theories or speculations of exactly who LUOCHA can be, please feel free to put it down in the comment section, as I will have a lot of big interest in reading this. Without further ado, thank you so much for watching this video. This is actually my first video I have done of just like a theory analysis, some thoughts, my opinions, as well as some things I have gathered from my chat, as well as the Honkai Impact 3rd community and the Honkai Star Rail community. If you like, I stream almost every day on twitch.tv at /Nohr_and_T. You can check me out there. I am always live, typically on the evenings in the United States sides, and I like to answer questions about Honkai Impact 3rd, Honkai Star Rail, and Genshin Impact, explaining lore, literature, philosophy, and science within these games. Without further ado, this is Nohr, and I'm signing out for the day. Bye bye!